So my bigger goal is just to declutter and to only keep what I need and what the people that live after me will want. I cannot do it all today, so I'm starting with the dresser in my bedroom. And I didn't even finish it last weekend, but I got through 2 piles. And just seeing half of a clean dresser is super motivating for me.
Hey, this is Kat Lee.
And I'm Laura Wilkinson, and this is the Hello Goals podcast.
So in today's show, we are diving deep with author and speaker Chrystal Evans Hurst about the surprising role of failure and how we balance perfectionism with grace as we pursue our goals. From launching her very first app to just decluttering her home, Chrystal shares some wisdom that she's learned along the way about setting and reaching our goals, both big and small. Let's dive in.
Chrystal Hurst, because we're a goal-oriented podcast, we really want to hear about your goals, big or small. We want to know about a goal that you have set for yourself that you've accomplished and you feel proud of.
I know we were talking before we started recording about big and little goals, so I'll share one of each if that's okay. So a big goal that I'm currently really proud of is that I just launched an app, and I have been talking about launching an app for 3 years. It's been delayed by me, delayed by my developer, just delayed because the world has been making me delay. But it's in the world. It's currently members only, but I'll allow it to have a public feature soon. But it just feels pretty monumental to be able to say, in this world, I have my own app. So I'm really excited about that. But I will tell you that I am probably more excited by this. So I'm in a constant state of decluttering because paper continues to come in the door. And so I have this really random, probably silly goal of just cleaning off the chest of drawers in my bedroom. It becomes a catch-all for stacks of papers because if I have guests on the kitchen table where my piles are, when they come over, I take the pile and I go in my room and put it on the dresser because I think I'll get back to it later, and then I never get back to it. And so it just looks terrible. And my oldest daughter, who's now 33, she tells me I'm a hoarder. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But then if I ever watch any of the hoarding shows, I'm like, this is probably how it starts. So I'm like, if I need to nip this in the bud. My mother passed away, and I'll never forget, I was looking for something and went into her attic, and the attic was clean. There were 2 things in there that made me cry. The rocking chair that I sat in when I was 2 or 3 years old, and the rocking horse my daughter, the oldest granddaughter, sat in when she was 2 or 3 years old. Apart from that, it was clean. Now, that's not my memory of the attic. The attic space was where we stick everything. It was always full of the seasonal things and the pot that we don't use and the duck that was a part of the one motif that then she moved away. I mean, it was just crazy town in there, and you had to go in there and look for everything. Well, she cleaned it out, and now I remember why. Because when her brother had died a few years before, it was unexpected. And she and a few siblings went to go clean out his apartment. And she came back from that trip and she said, it was horrible. Going through his things, not knowing where anything was, not knowing what was important or not. And she said, I just don't ever want to leave anybody in that position. So I didn't know. I had a few hints. Over years, she would say, hey, y'all, I'm giving some things away. If you want it, come get it. But, I didn't realize it was like that. So when she passed away and it was clean, it is a gift to her children for us not to have to clean those things out. So I've been thinking, I'm 52. I hope I live another 30 or 40 years. But I think about my daughter who's 33. She has 5 children from 9 to almost a year. If something were to happen to me unexpectedly, this would not be fair to her. So I have been on a mission the bigger mission is just decluttering in general. We have moved boxes 3 times. So they're obviously not that important because they're still in boxes. But somehow, right, I still want to go through them. So my bigger goal is just to declutter and to only keep what I need and what the people that live after me will want. I cannot do it all today, so I'm starting with the dresser in my bedroom. And I didn't even finish it last weekend, but I got through 2 piles. And just seeing half of a clean dresser is super motivating for me.
That's awesome. We had a similar issue when I was pregnant. So we were having to clean out a room to make it into a baby's room. And there was a box in there that had literally been sitting in there for like 10 years.
Yep.
It's like, I don't even know what's in this box. Maybe we should just throw it away just as is and not even look. But I couldn't do that. So I looked, and it was all my national team warm-ups from like 10, 15 years of competing. So I took them, there was a visiting team, and I took the whole box to the pool and just gave them away to everybody. Cause I was like, I'm never going to wear these, but it was this big gift to those people who were there. And now I just have all of my children's things piled in my room. But I can relate to that. And what a cool gift and a thoughtful gift that your mom gave you in doing that. That's pretty special.
And I love how you gave it away, because I think we discount, and throwing away is not bad, but we discount how something that no longer has use to us can be of use to someone else. But you gotta get it out of your house for it to be a benefit to somebody else.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, I feel a little called out right now. I have lanyards from when I worked at KSBJ 25 years ago from concerts that I worked at. I'm like, I can't get rid of those. So, Chrystal, obviously you're just starting with this one dresser, but it feels like an overwhelming, daunting project.
It is.
How do you get yourself to just focus on one spot and not be overwhelmed by the whole thing?
Well, listen, it's hard because, I talked about the dresser, but all those papers that were on the dresser, if they weren't to be recycled or tossed, they needed to be put away. So of course, it's the grand game we play of, okay, I'm trying to organize this one spot, but in order to organize it, I have to go into another spot. And so I did actually go into a room, and there were a couple of boxes that had been there, and I ended up cleaning out the boxes. So it led me to another room to get some work done. But I had to constantly say, girl, don't start cleaning up this room. Don't go in over here. Like, just you did the one box, be satisfied, go back to the dresser in your room. So I think, that just kind of reminding myself about the thing I'm going to focus on. And now I'm a Pomodoro person. My daughter is convinced that I have ADD, and I don't know that I would agree with her, except she keeps sending me these TikTok videos, and I'm like, I do that. I'm so diagnosed by TikTok. But
okay, hey, for people listening that don't know what Pomodoro is, tell us what Pomodoro is.
This is what I'll say. It's just a timer system where you make a decision to rotate through tasks. And so if I say for 20 minutes, I'm going to clean out a room, to say I'm going to do it today may be daunting. But if I just say it's only 20 minutes. So after 20 minutes, I'll get to take a break. So I'll reward myself with a 5-minute or 10-minute break after the first 20 with something I want to do. So maybe I'll read, a few pages in a book, or maybe I'll get on the phone with a friend, or maybe I'll go and get some dark chocolate almonds from my refrigerator, like whatever it is. And then I can rotate through a third thing if I want, but eventually I'm going to go back to another 20-minute run for the thing that I was doing. And so if I'm studying or writing, it won't be 20 minutes. I like to do, like, people say 30 minutes, but I can't write anything good in 30 minutes. If it's going to be good, I need like an hour. So I'll have an hour, and then maybe I'll give myself a 15-minute break, go fold some laundry, change my laundry over. Maybe then I'll make a phone call, schedule an appointment, do some work, check something off in Asana, and then I'll go back and make another hour. So dividing those tasks up into smaller pieces makes the pieces feel doable. And then also balancing them out with other things I want to do or need to do keeps me moving. So I don't lose interest or lose energy or motivation for the task at hand. But working to come back to it is hard. But coming back to it is how you feed the motivation. Because if I move to the other room and start working in there, and then that leads me to a third room, I have nothing finished. And satisfaction is a big part of meeting your goals, the satisfaction that you're moving towards them.
Well, I love this, and I think this will play into what I'm about to ask you, but I know that you are a homeschool mom. Is that
yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
And I homeschool my kids, and I try to work out of the house. And when I look at your website and all the things that you do, I'm like, okay, these are all the things I'm trying to do, but I feel like your dresser, like it's all just piled up, in these different areas, and I'm never quite getting to the 20 minutes of it. Like, how do you do this with your life stuff, other than just stuff in the house? But like, how do you do this with life and kids and work and the whole crazy juggling act that we do?
How do I clean my house, or how do I achieve goals? Like,
yes, achieve life goals.
Oh my goodness. Well, I saw this post and I saved it. I was like, I might use the reel and do something over it. But Shonda Rhimes was speaking somewhere, and it was just in my feed. And she said, people ask me how I do it all, but the thing is, I don't. And usually if you see me succeeding in one area of my life, I'm failing in another. So My kids are home for spring break. I have 2 college kids and they're home. I was supposed to send out an email on Monday. I didn't. This weekend, I spent time lounging because I could. And I was getting caught up on Paradise on Hulu. Oh my gosh. I'm not even a TV watcher. And I just had to suck in all 8 episodes in 48 hours. But I was doing this with my kids and I allowed myself to sleep and I allowed myself to take the phone call. And I've been sitting in decisions to be a little slower. So that means between my family, me being slower, my Monday email didn't go out. I finished writing it this morning before I jumped on this interview with you all. And I'm sitting here and going, girl, get your act together. You sent out a Monday email for years. I can do that, but then I won't enjoy breakfast with my kids on Monday morning and they're home. So I think we have to relegate to the fact that something will be done less well and you are shifting focus and making peace with that. And so homeschooling my kids, I did it really well in some years and then I had no friends. And now in this season of my life, I'm like, yeah, y'all got it. So, it's like I've outsourced more of the homeschooling than I have in previous years. I think making peace with that. I'd never had a clean house, but I had great meals. And my kids remember me playing on the floor with them and doing things. But my house was never clean. Now my house is clean, but my emails aren't written. You know what I mean? So I just think we have to make peace with that. And we have to decide sometimes by day, what gets my attention today. There are days I'm not going to be the most engaged mom, but that's because I'm engaging with something else that I feel like is important. And my kids can learn for 1 or 2 days to live without an engaged mom. I would tell my children every day between 2 and 4, you had your time with me this morning. I need my time to myself this afternoon. And they would come up to me and I would feel terrible, but I'd be like, this is talkable after quiet time. And it felt bad, to be home. They're looking at me like, nope, don't talk to me because I'm not doing anything but having my quiet time, reading my book, writing my blog, watching something on YouTube. And I was like, nope, it has to wait until 4. So you have to decide to fail. And you simply decide on any given day, in any given moment, or in any given season, what you're not going to pay attention to, or that you're going to pay less attention to.
But it's so wise.
and it's hard, and you will constantly feel like you're failing. I don't know of any mother, homeschool, work school, you go to school, mom is in school, it doesn't matter. I don't know of any mother who feels like she's winning. I think that the seeds of motherhood that we plant, we wait to see what blossoms. And also we plant based on wisdom. So the old people had the farmer's almanac, and they would read that to figure out what gets planted now. And then they plant it and nothing happens. And you just have to wait for it to come back up. But you did plant in wisdom, right? And so there is wisdom to be had. We know that people need time. They need FaceTime. They need love. They need food. They're like plants. They need water. They need, fiber. They need all these different things. And you're basing that on wisdom. So you read the mommy books and you ask other moms. And I would go to a homeschool co-op where I had to be there all day if my kids had classes. I was like, can I just drop them off? And I didn't. But I was so grateful because while my kids were in classes, because I could not drop them off, I had to sit in the gym with other moms. And I used that time to pull it in. I learned how to bake bread. I learned how to develop my schedule. I was talking to moms about praying. I learned what to do that mattered for homeschool, what to let go. I sat there and just soaked it up. And so I did all the things. And we didn't finish all the books. And sometimes I helped them too much. Sometimes I helped them too little. Often I said no. I felt behind. I felt like the world was passing me by. But I was planting with wisdom. My daughter, we had knockdown dragouts over writing. And I remember, I'm a perfectionist. It is what it is. I remember telling her, you turned it in. This is a B, but we're going to keep working on it until it's an A. And she's like, I'm never going to be a writer like you. You want me to be you. You just need to let me, I'm artistic. I'm not this, I'm not that. And I said, true. However, for better or for worse, God gave me to you as your mom. So this is what I think is important. I've had teachers that thought things were important. I did not agree with them, but I still had to take their class. Well, my daughter is now an author. And in the front of her book, I wish I had it in front of me, she said something about the late night grammar sessions. I wasn't planning on her being a writer. I wasn't trying to make her a writer. I was simply planting the seeds that I had, praying over them and saying, okay, Lord, now it's up to you to make it grow. I just wanted her to be a person of excellence. That's it. I wanted her to finish things and not take the B. At least know what an A is. So I didn't do everything right. I look back and see how I could have done things better. But what I will say, and I'm borrowing this from my grandmother, 4 children, 2 with doctorate degrees, 1 secretary with the same pastor for 30 years, and 1 son who struggled with substance addiction his whole life. And I ask her, when you look back, what did you do to get the 2 doctors? And what do you think didn't happen with the other one, the other son that struggled his whole life? And she put her head to the side and she said, you know, and I also said, and do you have any regrets? She said, you know, I don't have any regrets. I think in every season, I didn't get it right, but I did the best I could with the information that I had. And I think if as a mother, you are doing the best you can with the information that you have, that has to be enough. And here's the reason why. Because your kids, no matter what you do or no matter how good you are going to need therapy. Like, go ahead, make a deposit, set up an account, tell them this is your therapy start. Because we are not perfect people. Like, we're not. You know what I mean? Like, so somewhere along the way, even if they think we're the best mother ever, they will be able to point out our faults. So stressing over getting it all right is an unworthy, it's an unworthy venture because you're not. What you can do is commit yourself to prayer, commit yourself to God's word, because he does give us information for parenting. He did not give your kid a specific manual. You have to depend on God for what you need to know for each kid. But he also gives us wisdom. There are books to read, podcasts to listen to, women to follow. I've followed and listened to and loved Sally Clarkson for years. I had other homeschool mothers who I would call for wisdom. I mean, and then you show up and you do the best you can. And then with all of that, you're still going to feel like you're coming up a little short. So you just learn to live with a little sense of failure, knowing that the gift of failure is that you learn to live looking for God to fill the gap you could never fill on your own.
I'm curious because you did mention that you are a perfectionist, and yet you're also talking about so much grace that you've given yourself. And you've spoken to this a little bit, but that's a huge balance there. That's something that so many people, so many women, so many moms, especially anybody who's listening to a Hello Goals podcast, is going to struggle with. They're a perfectionist and yet they can't be perfect. And the whole key that you've been talking about is just, keep going. You come back to that dresser and declutter it a little bit more. You come back to being a great mom today or focusing on speaking today or whatever. How do you balance that? What are some things that you've done to help you balance that?
Well, every knot should be able to be untied. And if I am wound too tight where I cannot untie myself, then that is my signal to let go. I can feel it in my body. It brings unnecessary stress. It makes me unnecessary tight and taut with other people around me. It makes me inflexible because life requires flexibility. It renders me unable to pivot, and life requires pivots. The seasons will change, and often when we don't expect them to. So if you find that the level of perfectionism or rigidity does not allow you to shift in ways that allow you to live well and live full, then you learn to loosen the tie. So I've lived long enough to know that about myself, and I'm an extreme personality also. So the challenge for me is to not walk with untied shoelaces. It's like, don't worry about it. It'll be all right. And I'm tripping over myself. There is a 45 mile an hour that exists between 0 and 80. And I try to live there. That is what requires the most effort. But what that looks like for me is If I have set aside a weekend, I'm a weekend writer. And so I try to write a little bit, keep some notes, capture my thoughts. But I like to write deeply if I'm writing a book on the weekend. I like to go on a Friday night just to unwind, check my email, do some things, read some books, start my engine. Saturday morning, I try to start between 5 or 6 a.m., get my favorite Starbucks drink, call a friend, loosen up, play my music, and then just dive in and let the words come. If I've sat there from Saturday from 6 a.m. and it's now 1 and I have 1,100 words, that ain't good. I was supposed to get in here and have at least 2,500, maybe 5,000 if I'm really doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like I'm failing because I've set myself up for success. I checked all of my boxes. I do the things that work for me and the words are not coming. So I can sit there and squeeze it out and stay until 7 p.m. And I've done that. Or I can realize that that's probably all I have today and get up and go home and do my laundry and love on my family. So squeezing to the last drop, which often rigidity and perfectionism requires, is not always the most productive way to live. And because I've learned that sometimes I needed a little grace, a little space for things to continue to go well, I relax. If I meant to make, which I did the other day, my amazing beef ribs in the crock pot, but I didn't have some of the ingredients I thought I did. I forgot something. I didn't check the Instacart order. He had to substitute. There was no substitute. I can be like, oh my gosh, and get in my car and go to the store and get that ingredient. Or I can get on all recipes and find something that worked for the thing I have and try something new and have less stress and angst and be more present with my family. I've learned to let myself off the hook. What is the end goal? Well, I get to the end goal if I loosen this knot a little bit. Because if I don't, then you have to come through and cut them. And cutting it is not what we want to have to do.
So much intention. Yeah, there's so much intentional thinking in what you do, even on your day to day. And I love that, but it's exhausting sometimes, right? Taking all your thoughts captive and making sure they're like aligning with what your priorities are or what your goal is. But I love that you are talking about the gift of failure and that it's just a necessary part and it's something we have to embrace and walk through. And as an athlete and someone who coaches athletes, I'm always talking about failure. Like, it's not fun. We don't like to talk about it. We don't like to experience it. It doesn't feel good, but it's necessary to move forward and to learn, right? And to gain that wisdom. Like, failure is a big part of the process, but nobody wants to talk about it or admit that they're going through it. So it's refreshing somebody like you is talking about how normal and necessary that is. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, I think if we compassion for ourselves and for other people comes from failure. Understanding about what's possible, even when we don't check every box, comes from failure. Expanding our capacity to wait on a result that we had hoped would come sooner. Patience, which is a great gift for building things, that often requires failure. So we miss out on strength building experiences when we don't welcome failure. And so as a perfectionist, and listen, I claim that because it also makes me amazingly great at things. The fact that I am willing to get something done and get it done right. It means I'll go further than a lot of people are willing to go and get results that other people aren't willing to get. So I don't reject perfectionism like a lot of people do because it's this, toxic trait. No, I think every trait can be a good trait if it's used to the right degree, in the right way, and at the right time. I've just recognized that living tight all the time, nonstop, is not effective. I need to know when to tighten and when to loosen, and that knowledge has come with time and failure and age.
That's so good because ultimately you're keeping the end goal in mind and you're not getting caught up. I know athletes a lot of times talk about, well, just trust the process. But there's that balance between getting caught up in doing the process perfectly and losing sight of that end goal and then just kind of letting everything fall apart. But you're keeping that end goal in mind, pursuing perfection, but at the same time, recognizing that failure is even part of the process of getting to that end goal.
Absolutely.
That's so good.
Absolutely.
Chrystal, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing your journey. I know that whether people listening are trying to declutter and get their papers in order and getting stuff in order for their kids, or they're trying to, maybe create an app. Has it really just been 3 years that you've been working on an app? It feels like we've been talking about that for a long time. And so it's a big day. It's a big day, and I want
It's
to
a big
congratulate
day.
that.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, listen, what a fun podcast. I mean, when I start geeking out about goal setting, productivity, I love it all. And, my audience is great and I talk about a lot of different things, but I have the most fun talking about goal setting and productivity. I mean, my goodness, I have a whole planner. So this is my jam. So what a fun podcast to have, to be able to talk about this all the time. Thanks so much for having me and inviting me into this space.
Well, where can people find you, your book, your planner, all your stuff? Because y'all, Chrystal is the queen of goal setting. I mean, we literally talk about it all the time, and you're just going to find so many incredible resources. So where can people find you and everything you have to offer?
Well, my website is chrystalevanshurst.com, and then everywhere on social, I'm at Chrystal Hurst. So you can find everything I have in any one of those two places. If you want to go direct for the book that I most recently released, 100 Days to Discovering the Gift of You, you can go anywhere books are sold.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the podcast, Chrystal.
Thanks, Chrystal.
Thanks again for having me.
What an amazing episode. I hope y'all enjoyed Chrystal as much as we did. I would love to hear some of your takeaways from this episode. So look us up on Instagram. We are Hello Goals Show on Instagram. Also be sure to check out our website, hellogoals.org, where you can sign up for our newsletter. We'll be sending out some really amazing resources to y'all in the coming weeks. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Remember, our goal here is to help you reach yours so you can be the next guest on the Hello Goals podcast.